Amen. Good morning. Thank you. You may be seated. Can you say this morning as well with my soul? Regardless of what's going on, bring them all up for me. All right, get the rest of them. There you go. Thank you. That woke you up, didn't it? The Lord said, let there be light. And in this case, the preacher said, let there be light. There was light. It's just good to be in God's house. Turn your Bibles to 1 Kings chapter 3 through chapter 11. We're going to cover all of that this morning. We're continuing our study series of messages I got from David Dykes, pastor of Tabernacle Baptist Church in Texas, going through the Old Testament, big events in the Old Testament. And by way of review, we're going to talk today about Solomon, the king who didn't follow his own advice. Solomon was a wise man, but he made some foolish choices later on in his life. And we're going to look at that this morning. But I kind of want to go back and review a little bit what we're talking about. Solomon was the wisest man, second wisest man on the earth, other than Jesus Christ was the wisest one. Solomon has been called the second one. But in this series, let's do a little bit of review of it. God created Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden and put them there. We don't know how long it was before they sinned, but they sinned. And as a result, they got cast out of the garden. And sin entered into the human race and went on till Noah's time. During Noah's time, the world got so bad, God said, I'm going to have to do this thing over. I'm going to wipe everybody out except Noah and his family. And so he did. He sent a flood. He destroyed the earth, destroyed all the animals except for the ones on the ark. Wasn't too long after that before he entered into a covenant relationship with Abraham and then with Isaac and then with Jacob. And Jacob had a lot of sons. You remember Joseph was the chosen one. He got sold into slavery, sent down to Egypt, and he became very wealthy, became the prime minister of Egypt, and he became well cared for and respected. But after a while, there came a Pharaoh on the throne that didn't know Joseph. He began to imprison and enslave the Israelites. And so Moses, God sent Moses to deliver them. They went into the promised land, or they went into the wilderness. And God turned them to Kadesh Barnea. Remember, they got to Kadesh Barnea, and God said, go over there and take the land. They said, we got it over there. We ain't going to do that. God said, take another lap around Mount Sinai. And they did for about 40 years. They wandered in the wilderness. And so then eventually, Joshua took over, and Joshua led them into the promised land. After they wandered for 40 years in the wilderness, Joshua took them into the promised land. During that time, after that, the judges began to arise. The Bible says every man did that which seemed right in his own eyes. That's what we're living at today. Amen. Every man is doing what seems right in his own eyes. That's why we call wrong right and right wrong. That's why we've got laws set down that are trying to legalize what God calls sin. You pass all the laws you want to. If God said it's sin, it's still sin. Say amen. Amen. Hasn't changed. God hasn't changed one bit. He's still the same God. And what he said is sin is sin. And but after a while, after the judges, after the different leaders came forward, Israel looked around and said, every other nation's got a king. Said, God, we want a king. God said, I don't want you to have a king. I want to be your king. They said, we want a king like the other nations. God said, okay, I'm going to give you what you want. And they got Saul. And then they wished they didn't have. Right? So Saul was raised up to be king. After Saul was, after that, David came to the throne. David died in his time. That's where we're at now. David had a son, Solomon. And David and Solomon, what I'm trying to get to is this, has to be one of the pinnacles in the history of Israel, because during this time, about 1,000 years, a little bit before the birth of Christ, was the greatest time for the nation of Israel. They were the wealthiest nation. They were blessed. The Jews were looking for a Messiah who would be the son of David, because David was, and his son Solomon were the very pinnacle of the nation. This was a great time for Israel. That's where we're at today. Solomon became king around 1000 BC, and he reigned about 40 years, and he made a big mess of things. That's putting it mildly. Then his son came behind him, Rehoboam came behind him and made it even bigger worse. Matter of fact, Rehoboam split the kingdom into two, into the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom. And the kingdom divided in 922, a couple hundred years later, in 722, the northern kingdom was captured by the Assyrians, and the Assyrians intermarried with the northern kingdom, and that's where the Samaritans came from. Remember them? The Jews have nothing to do with Samaritans. They had intermarried with the Assyrians. But Judah, the southern kingdom, hung on for another couple hundred years. In 587 BC, Nebuchadnezzar captured them, came in and conquered them. So what I want to do today is look at 5 things from Solomon that I think ought to be a lesson for us. Ought to make us realize that wisdom great gift of God. But you must serve God with that wisdom. First of all, let's talk about his wisdom. He said in 1 Kings chapter 3, and stand if you will for the reading of God's word. I want to read from the Holman Christian Standard Bible, 1 Kings chapter 3, verse 5. I want to look at verse 5. At Gibeon, the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream at night, and God said, ask, what should I give you? And Solomon replied, you have shown great and faithful love to your servant, my father David, because he walked before you in faithfulness, righteousness, and integrity. You have continued this great faithful love for him by giving him a son to sit on the throne as today. I'm going to look at verse number 7. Lord my God, you have now made your servant king in my father David's place. Yet I am just a youth with no experience in leadership. Your servant is among your people. You have chosen a people too numerous to be numbered or counted. So give your servant an obedient heart or wisdom to judge your people and to discern between good and evil. For who is able to judge this great people of yours? Let's pray. Father, thank you for the reading of your word this morning. I pray, God, now you open hearts and minds. Lord, help us to be ready, to be receptive for what you have for us today. God, give me freedom of speech, give me liberty. Lord, I ask that I say everything that needs to be said, nothing that doesn't. God, again, if there's one here today that's lost, bring them to that saving knowledge. But as your children, Lord, help us to stay faithful to you, to recognize that no matter what gifts you give us, those gifts are to be used for your honor and your glory. Honor, Lord, today we pray that everything will honor the name of Jesus Christ. For in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Thank you. You may be seated. Now, wouldn't it be amazing if God would come to you one night and say, you name whatever you want, I'm going to give it to you. I'm having trouble with this, but hot things. Wouldn't it be great if God just came to you one night and said, you name whatever you name, I'll give you anything you want. You tell you what, you better be thinking about it, because sometimes he might. He just might. He came today, he came to Solomon. And Solomon asked for wisdom, but when I read that verse, I think that Solomon should also add another request to it. He should have said, God, give me wisdom to govern my own life and my own appetites. But he didn't. He asked for wisdom so he could govern his people. And God granted that. Now in the New Testament, there is a spiritual gift of wisdom given to people. And God is still giving that gift of wisdom. Knowledge is the ability to take things and take them apart, to analyze them. Wisdom is the ability to put them back together again and to synthesize and put them all together. So knowledge is knowing the facts. Wisdom is how to apply them and how to use them. Solomon had that ability. That's what wisdom is. And of course, Solomon, if you read the rest of this chapter, two women, he was just an example of his wisdom. Two women came to him arguing over a baby. One of them said, this woman took my living baby during the night. The other one said, no, this woman put her dead baby by me and took my living baby, and it's mine. And the two women were arguing back and forth about whose baby it was. And Solomon looked at both of them and said, hold it. I'll tell you what, dude, we'll just split the baby in half and give one half to this mother, one half to this other, the other mother. And of course, one of them spoke up and said, no, that's okay, just give the child to her. Well, Solomon knew then that was great, okay? Because no mother was to see her baby killed, all right? And so that was just one example of his great wisdom. Solomon was a man of great wisdom. And God gave him something else. In verse number 13, he said, in addition, I will give you what you did not ask for, both riches and honor, so that no man in any kingdom may be your equal during your entire life. If you walk in my ways and keep my statutes and commands just as your father David did, I will give you a long life. It's a beautiful illustration of Matthew chapter 6, verse 33, when Jesus said, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. You see, God says if you're seeking him, seeking after him, and knowing him and serving him, if that's your number one priority, he will make sure all these other things come into play, come into being. But most of us treat God like a sideline. Like a sideline. In other words, we put everything else first, and then what's left over, we say, Lord, this time is yours. No, put God first, seek him first. In verse 3, Solomon loved the Lord by walking in the statutes of his father David, but he also sacrificed and burned incense on high places. Now, this is what even before God gave him wisdom. So I want you to see that Solomon made some bad choices right to start with. He started out loving the Lord, but there's a compromise even at the beginning of his life by making pagan sacrifices in high places. Verse 29 says, God gave Solomon wisdom, very great insight and understanding, as vast as the sea of the seashore, sand on the seashore. Solomon's wisdom was greater than the wisdom of all the people of the east, greater than all the wisdom of Egypt. He was wiser than anyone, wiser than Ethan the Ezrahite, and Heman, Calcol, and Darda, sons of Mahol. His reputation extended to all the surrounding nations. Solomon composed 3,000 proverbs, and his songs numbered 1,500. He described trees from cedar in Lebanon to the hyssop growing out of the wall. He also talked about animals, birds, reptiles, and fish, and people came from everywhere, sent by every king on earth, and we heard his wisdom to listen to Solomon's wisdom. That's how wise he was. Great amount of wisdom. And he worked. He was not afraid to work. Solomon had great works. He was the greatest builder in the history of Israel until Herod the Great came along almost 1,000 years later. Chapter 6 and verse 37 culminates his work. In chapter 6, verse 37, it says, the foundation of the Lord's temple was laid in Solomon's 4th year in the month of Ziv. In the 11th year, in the 8th month, in the month of Bul, the temple was completed in every detail and according to every specification. So he built it in 7 years. It took him 7 years to build the temple. And no stone was quarried in Jerusalem. It was quarried elsewhere and brought there. So that in building the temple, there was not the sound of a hammer or any instrument, any tool in building that temple. If you care to take the time to read about all the gold and the silver, and cedar, and all the beauty of Solomon's temple, it was a beautiful sight. But don't miss chapter 7, verse 1. As beautiful as the temple was, and it took 7 years to build it. Chapter 7, verse 1 says Solomon completed his entire palace complex after 13 years of construction. So it took him 7 years to build a temple, 13 years, and this wasn't the only palace he had. He had several palaces. As they say, if you go to Megiddo in Israel, if you go to the palace of Solomon, he had 100 stables there. It was a lush palace. You can imagine it's just one of the palaces he vacationed in. Somebody said he had as many as 8 palaces within the nation. Solomon's temple was the most beautiful temple ever built until Jerusalem was destroyed in 587 BC. Zerubbabel started the second temple. It was renovated by Herod the Great, but even it didn't compare to Solomon's temple. The greatest temple that was ever built. Listen, they have remanufactured the temple now with the implements and the instruments that were in it originally. Where did they get the instructions from? Right here in the book of 1 Kings. They replicated every detail, every single instrument that was in Solomon's temple, except for one. Anybody know what's missing in this one? How many of you saw Raiders of the Lost Ark? The Ark of the Covenant is not there. Now, the Germans don't have it. Okay. No matter what they said in Raiders of the Lost Ark, Germans don't have it. The last we know about it, it was captured by the Babylonians when they destroyed the temple, but there's no record of them ever even keeping the ark. The only thing that was left in there originally, it had Aaron's rod, the bowl of manna, and the tablets of the commandments. But when it was captured, the only thing that was in there was the 10 Commandments. So we don't know where the Ark of the Covenant is. I believe it's still in Jerusalem somewhere, and it is going to be discovered. I believe it will one day be discovered, and it will be during the millennial reign. That Ark of the Covenant is going to be something we'll look at as a remembrance, as a symbol. But then God had to give Solomon a warning. Proverbs 16:18 says, "Whoever thinks he stands must be careful not to fall." I'm sorry, that's 1 Corinthians 10:12. Proverbs 16:18 says, "Pride goes before destruction, and the Holy Spirit before a fall." Listen, after the temple was dedicated to the glory of God and filled that temple, God had to warn Solomon. Now listen to me, folks. Here's what you understand. Here's a wise man. God has given him a discerning heart, and he's wise, but God has to warn him about something. Listen to what he says. In 1 Kings 9:6. "If you or your sons turn away from following me, and do not keep my commands, my statutes that I've set before you, and if you go and serve other gods and worship them, I will cut off Israel from the land I gave them, and I will reject the temple I have sanctified for my name. Israel will become an object of scorn and ridicule among the people. Though this temple is now exalted, everyone who passes by will be appalled and will mock. They will say, 'Why did the Lord do this to this land and this temple?' They will say, 'Because they abandoned the Lord their God who brought their ancestors out of the land of Egypt. They clung to other gods and worshiped and served them. Because of this, the Lord brought all this ruin on them. Do you know, if you don't, listen to me. I listened to John Piper again last night, so bear with me a few minutes. If you don't worship and serve the Lord with all joy and gladness, you will perish. That's what it means to be saved. It means to put Him first. It means to have all joy and honor in His being within you. And it is to exalt Him above all other things. And so there we see Solomon having a warning here. Don't go following after other gods. Do you think Solomon is going to heed this warning? No. Do you think people today heed that warning? No. We put everything else we can before God. The mistake the Jews made in the later generations about the temple was they honestly thought that God lived in that temple because God would sometimes come between the two cherubs on the Ark of the Covenant and would dwell there. And so they thought He was there permanently, and that's not the case. And they thought to themselves, as long as we have God in our temple, neither Jerusalem nor the temple will be destroyed. Boy, were they wrong. God had warned Solomon. He said, if your people ever turn from my word and from my statutes, the temple you are dedicating today, that's brand spanking new, I'll move out of it and I will destroy it. It'll be torn down. Guess what? It came to pass. It was destroyed by the Babylonians in 587 BC. Solomon's wealth. Not only did he have great wisdom, but he had all the wealth. He was popular. The Queen of Sheba came to him. Listen, it's mind-boggling to think of how much wealth Solomon had. The Queen of Sheba came to him in chapter 10. Chapter 10 is all about the Queen of Sheba coming there. Verse 7, she said, but I did not believe the reports until I came and saw with my own eyes. Indeed, I was not even told half your wisdom and prosperity far exceeds the reports I heard. Chapter 10, verse 14, the balance sheet of Solomon's personal finances. It says the weight of gold that came to Solomon annually was 25 tons of gold. And that's just one source. That's about, in today's economy, that's about $320 million a year from one source. Everybody brought him gifts. The Queen of Sheba brought him 120 talents of gold. That's $58 million. That ain't a bad housewarming present. You know, I'd like to have that for housewarming. 1 Kings 10, verse 21 says, all the King Solomon's drinking cups were gold, as all the utensils of the house of Forest of Lebanon were pure gold. There was no silver, since it was considered as nothing in Solomon's time. No, didn't have any silver. Silver, who wants that? I'd rather have the gold. Verse 23 says, King Solomon surpassed all the kings of the world in riches and in wisdom. Verse 26 says, Solomon accumulated 1,400 chariots and 12,000 horsemen, and stationed them in the chariot cities and within the king in Jerusalem. The king made silver as common in Jerusalem as stones, and he made cedar as abundant as sycamore in the Judean hills. Look at that. Silver as common as stones. How many of you go out here and pick up all the stones this afternoon? Not you, Doc. Doc pushed you off a cliff for a stone now, I'm telling you. I gotta share that with you, because they don't know what I'm talking about. We were at Don Don's mountain one time, and she loves rocks. She collects rocks from wherever she goes. So what was that mountain we were on, Don? I forgot. Jefferson. We were here in Jefferson. Yeah, and Mount Jefferson. And we were there, and over on the cliff right there, there's a rock. And it's over on the edge of the cliff a little bit. And Doc said, "Preacher, get that rock for me." I said, "Okay." So I went and did it like that, and when I did, my foot slipped, and I started falling. And Doc said, "Don't drop my rock." I said, "Yes, ma'am, I'll hold it." I'll hold it all the way down. So she may go out and collect stones this afternoon, but most of us are not going to go out and collect stones. Let me ask you something. Would you go out and collect silver this afternoon? Well, if you did in Solomon's time like that, just silver was just like stone, nobody wanted it. Listen. I wish I could end the message there. I really do. And just say Solomon, all Israel lived happily ever after, and everything was good. But that's why I know the Bible was not written by man, it was written by God. Because he tells everything. I mean, you read about David and Bathsheba's, David's adultery with Bathsheba and killing Uriah, the Hittite, covered it up, and her husband. God told us about that. So Solomon, we need to make him look good. Let's just give him good press. The Bible doesn't do that. The Bible tells everything. Then I want to bring into Solomon's weakness. Now, that's the last thing I want to talk to you about is his weakness. And you can write one word. Women. That was Solomon's weakness. 1 Kings 11:3 said he had 700 wives who were princes and 300 concubines, and they turned his heart away from the Lord. 700 and 300. That's 1,000 pair of pantyhose in the house.
There's a lot of Solomons in the world.
When Solomon grew old, his wife seduced him to follow other gods. He was not completely devoted to Yahweh as God as his father David had been. Solomon followed Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Syrians, and Milcom, the detestable idol of the Ammonites. Solomon did what was evil in the Lord's sight, and unlike his father David, he did not completely follow Yahweh. If you've ever studied ancient fertility religions, you know Ashtaroth is also called Ashtar, we call her Ishtar, where we get the word Easter. And she was actually the goddess of fertility. It's a pagan fertility goddess who worshipped, included sexual practices. So here's a man of God, king of the nation of God, who is involved in all kinds of immoral worship as well as trying to serve God. Folks, it just doesn't work. Listen to me. You cannot serve God and the world at the same time. Did you hear me? You cannot serve God and the world at the same time. But we have Christians trying to do that. The worst thing about having 1,000 wives, I think, would be having 1,000 mother-in-laws. Man, asked a preacher one time, Brother David, I can tell this story, I want to share it with you. He said, the preacher, somebody asked one time, said, you know, I read in the Bible about all these people that had many wives, more than one wife. Does the Bible say a man should have only one wife? And the preacher told him, he said, yeah, absolutely. He says, you're only supposed to have one wife. He said, can you show it to me in the Bible? He said, sure. He said, I turned him over to where the Bible says, no man can serve two masters. Amen. Seriously, God's perfect plan from the very beginning was always one woman and one man for all time. You see it in the Garden of Eden. Adam was alone, God created Eve. He did not create Eve and Janet for him. He didn't create Eve and Janet and Laura for him. He didn't create Steve for him, did he? Amen! It was Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. Thank you very much. Never in God's perfect plan did he ever intend for a man to have more than one wife. God's standard had always been sexual purity before marriage and sexual fidelity after marriage. That's been God's perfect plan all along. The difference between one sexual partner and two sexual partners is one giant step. After the second one, it's not much to the other 1,000. But that first one is a giant step. It's a step for the listener. When a married man or a married woman gives themselves over to a sexual sin, the first sin is the big step that leads to despair, to doom, to heartache, to misery. Solomon would have been so blessed in his life if he'd taken one wife and been faithful to her the whole time. Instead, he took many. 1,000 as a matter of fact, at least. We believe Solomon wrote the Song of Solomon while he was still a young man, full of vigor and all that. If you read the Song of Solomon, you got to admit, Solomon was a very romantic guy. That is a beautiful love story. It's a beautiful poetic book about the intimacy between a man and a woman. And nothing wrong with that. Then we believe Solomon wrote many of the Proverbs in the Bible when he was perhaps old enough that he'd been through some things and learned some things. He had more experience and wisdom. So he wrote many of the wonderful Proverbs. He said, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not rely on your own understanding. Think about him in all your ways, and he'll guide you on the right path. Then when you come to the book of Ecclesiastes, oh my, you see a bitter, old, vain man. He's all confused about the truth. By the way, you have to read Ecclesiastes, listen carefully, because much of what Solomon says in Ecclesiastes is about life from man's perspective rather than God's perspective. Because he says it's all in vain. Listen. In Ecclesiastes, you see a man who's been married to 1,000 women. When you come to Ecclesiastes 12, you'll find an old man who's hurting, whose equipment doesn't work anymore, who can't see well, who doesn't have teeth to chew, can't sleep at night, can't hear, a man who's lonely even though he's married to 1,000 women. That's Solomon. And you may be wondering, preacher, you told us all this about Solomon. What's this got to do with me? Well, let's make some applications and we finish it. I'm going to close. We can learn a lot from Solomon, from the mistakes that he made. As wise as he was, he began to follow other gods. He let his wives turn his attention to the foreign gods, and he began to make sacrifices to them. He's still trying to serve God, the God of Israel. But he's also letting his wives and trying to let them serve their gods, the false gods. Don't that makes for confusion. It doesn't work. The Bible says God is a jealous God. Now that upsets Oprah. But I hope it don't upset you because it's the Bible. Amen? God is a jealous, and why shouldn't he be? God made you. God created you. God put in you the desire to have fellowship with him. Amen. That's why people who do not know the Lord have a hole in their heart they're trying to fill with everything else. You can't fill it except with God. God's the only one that can satisfy that emptiness. Amen. And that God that created you and wanted to have fellowship with you and spoke you into existence has a right to be jealous of you if he wants you to. That's right. He's God. He can do whatever he wants to. Amen. Take you out in an instant. Amen. You say, would he do that? I don't know. That's his prerogative. He spoke you into existence. He can sure take you out. Amen. So I want to make some applications here. First of all, when you learn from Solomon that a good finish is better than a glorious start. I want to say this to especially those that are over 50. Never make the mistake of thinking that you have arrived spiritually, that you're where you need to be. And I can coast from here on out. It's so easy to look back and say, oh, I remember when God was really using me. I'm like Dr. Jerry Falwell said one time, I'll never forget, we were at Super Conference. And he said, I'm in the fourth quarter of the game. You know what he's talking about? The last quarter. Folks, I'm 70 years old. I am in the fourth quarter. I like these teams that rally. What is it? In Carolina, they ring the bell in the fourth quarter. Ding, ding, that means give it all you got. Amen? Even the state has something they do in the fourth quarter. I don't know. Maybe they go locker room. But but they try to give it everything they've got. Every team does in the fourth quarter, try to put everything. Hey, that's what we need to do. The nearer we get to the end of this life, the harder we ought to be working. Listen, it's not how high you jump when you get saved that counts, it's how straight you walk when you come back down. Amen. A lot of Christians are like Alka-Seltzer Christians. They start out with a lot of fizz and vigor, and then all of a sudden they're playing nothing left. Amen. Come Alka-Seltzer Christians. Over with just a little while. I hope every person in this room listening to my voice, when you cross the finish line, I want you to be saying, I'm sprinting across that finish line. I'm not dragging across it. Number two, never lose a sense of challenge. Without doubt, the greatest challenge of Solomon's life was building the temple. After you build the temple, what else is there? Well, I mean, one of the mountains already climbed once you climb Mount Everest. And you've done the best. It's a terrible place when you lose challenges. That's the reason every day I want to be challenged. I want to be challenged. As a pastor, I have to keep reminding you, if you think the greatest thing this church is going to do is redo our sanctuary, redo the basement downstairs, or build a new fellowship hall over there, you're wrong. It's not about that. It's about people. It's about faces. Faces of lost people that need Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. That's what it's about. And that's the challenge that is before us. The challenge before us is not to beautify a building or build a bigger building. We need a bigger building. that's not the challenge. The challenge is to win people to Jesus Christ. To tell them that they're lost without Christ and on their way to hell. So don't ever lose that challenge. I try to make it point. My wife will tell you, I'm still in a learning. I love to learn something every day. I want to learn something new. And most of the scripture, I want to learn something about God every day. But I want to tell you something. How many of you watch Jeopardy? The rest of you need to get a life. Exactly. You know why I watch Jeopardy? Because I learned stuff from it. I can answer some of the questions. I started to give a percentage in there. I thought, I might be lying when I tell that.
21. 21%.
So, I can answer something, but the ones I can't answer, I learn from them. And I mean, I'll sit there and listen to the question, and it'll jog my curiosity, and then I'll take my phone out and I'll Google it and find out all I can about what they just answered, because I don't know anything about it. Say amen. I love to learn. That's a challenge. And get into the Word of God and read and study. Oh, let me tell you, I brought Joy a book on, we went to the Ark, I bought a book that every child of God ought to read. Now, this Bible upset some apple hearts. But it's by Ken Ham, Answering Genesis. It's called One Race, One Blood. One race, one blood. There is only one race of people. That's the human race.
Amen.
Now, there are different species of that human race, but there's only one race.
Amen.
One race, one blood. And in that book, he takes the scripture and he shows you what a terrible, terrible thing it is to be prejudicial towards the color of a person's skin. All got the same blood. We all got the same. You know where we all came from? Adam and Eve.
That's right. Absolutely.
Matter of fact, he said we ought to even do away with the term race and call it people groups. Just call them people groups. They're different groups of different people. Oh, it got quiet in here. I encourage you. Look at the back side of my bag there and pull that book out. Because you're going to read it, right? I'll show it to you. Get your copy of it. On the very back.
The other back.
The other back. No, that's it. That's it. Thank you, Ray. Hello. Who's got pizza? Ken Ham, Charles Martin. One blood, one race, one blood. One of the most provocative and enlightening books I've read in a long time. I encourage everybody, get a copy of that and read it. Here, Joy. This is the afternoon's work. I gave Paul a different one. You see that one, Paul? I like to read biographies. Brian got me this one. It's called Lost Flowers. Guess who it's about? Person. How many of you know Percy Flowers?
Oh,
Yeah, it's about written by his illegitimate son. Great read. Great read. Don't recommend you follow his exactly, but it's great read. I'll tell you what, in all honesty, the man did more things for more people than anybody I know as far as helping people out. Now, he made his money illegally. All right? I ain't gonna pull no punches. He made his money illegal. Moonshine. But then he took the money and he built houses for people and he helped churches, everybody. Yeah, I just thought I'd throw that in. Why? I don't know. I'm not trying to build him up or anything. I'm just saying, I like to learn. I like to learn about people and things and different things. Challenge yourself. Ask yourself every day, God, what kind of challenge can you put before me today? And then thirdly and lastly, little compromises lead to great ruin. Little compromises lead to great ruin. You know when Solomon made the first mistake in marrying somebody he should not have married, it's actually before he asked God for wisdom. In 1 Kings 3:1, he goes down to Egypt and marries Pharaoh's daughter for a political alliance. Then later he says, God, give me wisdom. Early on, he starts making these little compromises. Before he built the temple, we read he was already making sacrifices on high places to other gods. When you start making little compromises, they grow into big ruin before the Lord. God said in Galatians 6:7, don't be deceived, God not mocked, and whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also reap. The decisions and the choices you make are like planting seeds. You ever notice when you plant one seed, 100 comes back? And the Old Testament says, Hosea, needless, they sow the wind and reap the whirlwind. The consequences for the little things that we do are worse than the deeds themselves. And there's a growth of consequences, and they're like the seeds that grow. One little seed, and the consequence from that, and that, and that, and that, it multiplies many times over. Solomon sowed disobedience, he sowed compromise, he sowed little sins, setting up those little altars. Before long, the Bible says his heart had been turned from God. How different from his father. Although his father sinned with Bathsheba and Uriah the Hittite, her husband, David was a man who sinned and fell, but to the very end it says he still had a heart for God. Look at Solomon. His heart had been turned from God because of those sins. Maybe there's some of you today who made some mistakes and some terrible defects. But the question is, I'm asking you right now, regardless of what you've done, because God is a forgiving, loving, merciful God. And if you confess and repent, God forgives and restores. I don't know how you came into this building, but I dare say there's some folks in here who messed up sometime during your life, including me. I'm going to start with me. I know me better than I know anybody else. I know me better than I know Joy. And we know she's messed up. Seriously. There's not one I've seen at some point. But if you come to God and say, God, I messed up. Forgive me. I have sinned. God will with open arms forgive, restore, heal, and bring you back into fellowship. Heads are bowed, eyes are